Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
Time's up. Procrastination. Let's do it. Agent's Guide to End Procrastination Forever.
Here's your new mantra. Write this phrase down and never forget it. Make this phrase your personal mantra. Here it goes. I am a doer. I do things now. I get things done. I do what I don't want to do when I don't want to do it at the highest level. I know that everything worth having, doing, experiencing in life will take longer and require more effort than I expect. I avoid shortcuts. I avoid easy buttons. I embrace the struggle. I embrace the challenge. I won't quit. I won't deviate. This is my time.
All right. So that is going to be something that all of you need to take seriously. This little mantra that we wrote for you, for those of you who are suffering from procrastination, which is all of you, that is going to be available on the show notes from today. As you know, how many points do we have, Julie? 10 points. And we're also going to be giving you guys 10 points on how to stop procrastinating. And I'm going to remind you, make sure if you have not done so yet, subscribe to our new daily newsletter. It's called Harris Real Estate Daily. That's where all of our show notes are going to be waiting for you, as in addition to a bunch of other exclusive information, a lot of videos, a lot of interviews, things we're doing only for the folks that are subscribers to the free newsletter. So it's harrisrealestatedaily.com. The link is down below, so go ahead and click the link. There's absolutely no cost to you, so subscribe right away to harrisrealestatedaily.com.
All right, procrastinating. What are you waiting for? Here are the top 10 procrastinations that are causing you to lose money every single day, followed by the solution to cure you of your waiting habit. So ask yourself, what do you lose by procrastinating? Are you motivated by the carrot or the stick? Well, everyone claims that they're motivated by their goals, that would be the carrot, doing more to have more. Yet most don't get into action until they're about to lose something. That's the stick part.
Are we drilling down on that in one of your 10 points?
I'm sure we will.
Go truthfully, I think that's the most important thing.
Well, because that's a misperception, right? Everybody says, oh, I'm motivated by my goals. I got my goals. I did the treasure map. I've got A, B, and C that I want to do. I want to save more money. But in reality, based on our coaching experience, many years, many coaching calls, and life in general, it's not until you're about to lose something that you really magically find your motivation for most people. Would you agree with that?
Well, I always like to tell the story of Monet, though I've told it a million times, but his name's Monet Castroneves, and he was a coaching client after everything I'm about to tell you happened in his life. So he evidently had a huge weight problem, had a weight problem for a long period of time, was morbidly obese, had developed some really bad health problems, diabetes being one of them, and diabetes will hurt your circulation in all your limbs and your appendages, right? And so the doctor had been told him many, many times, if he doesn't, fix his, eating problem and his blood sugar and all the rest of it, they're going to have to start removing appendages, feet and legs and all this horribleness. He did not take any action. He would go to the doctor whenever he needed some new medication for blood pressure or whatever, and the doctor finally said, looking at your feet, Monet, it's now time we schedule you for your first procedure so I can start removing part of your foot. And it wasn't until that very conversation that the doctor had with Monet that Monet actually decided to take action, because he was living in fear of losing part of his foot. I mean, pretty awful, right? Yeah. And not only did he lose his weight, but he got in such good shape that he was on the cover of a men's fitness magazine. Then that's when he hired me to be his coach to help him build his coaching business. But I saw all of this, and as soon as he told me that story about how he'd hit, beyond rock bottom, and he built himself back up to such extreme levels, I knew he would be a brilliant coaching client. And guess what he was? He became an absolute 100% person that was focused on not procrastinating, because he'd lived the painful existence of someone who almost essentially, was starting to die because of his procrastination. So it's really important. It's like there's been a ton of psychological studies have been done on this about whether people are more motivated by, as Julie said, the carrot or the stick. I'm going to give you guys a shortcut to trying to figure yourselves out. All of you are motivated by the stick. I'm motivated by the stick. Sure. Julie's motivated by the stick. Mm-hmm. I'll prove it to you. Okay? So I'm going to give you all a challenge. I'm going to give you $100,000 to go out and take 10 listings in the next 60 days. Some of you are like, bah, I'll do that this week. I get it. But for many of you, you're going to have to start doing things that you've never wanted to do before. You're going to have to start dealing with FSBOs and expireds. You're going to have to do the real work of real estate. And maybe 100,000 is not motivational enough for you, so you're going to say, screw it, I'm not even going to try. You guys get it? Now let me flip that over on you. If you don't take 10 listings in the next 90 days or 60 days or whatever the hypothetical challenge is, you're going to lose your house. You're going to lose any money you have saved. You're going to lose your car. You're going to lose your cell phone. You're going to lose all of the things that basically give you a sense of security. So what's going to motivate you more? Wanting to take the listing so you can get the $100,000, or not wanting to lose the things that you already have? So that's going to ultimately give you, put you in a position where mentally you're willing to do what you don't want to do, and you don't want to do it at the highest level. Every single study that's ever been done on humans shows that more people are motivated by losing what they already have than gaining something into the future. Most people can't even visualize, what was it, Julie, a year, what they look like in the future by like
anything
a week?
past 12 months.
Yeah, exactly.
And people have studied it in your brain chemistry. When they ask somebody to imagine what they themselves look like 12 to 2 years out, 5 years out, it looks the same in your brain as when you imagine a stranger. That's how
weird?
Foreign it is. I know, it is weird. But rather than spending a lot of time analyzing, noodling it out, wondering if this applies to you or not, just accept the fact that this is the way it is and decide that you're not going to wait like Monet waited until something really dramatic is about to hit you.
Well, game yourself too. If you go to the bookstore today, you're going to see billions of books that are written on motivation and goal setting and dream boards and all the rest of it. Just set all that aside and remember what I just shared with you, that you're going to be more motivated by the stick than the carrot. So if you're wanting to, let's say you're financially well off, you've got security, your security's got security and it's got security, right? You're not worried about money. You're going to have to learn how to manifest that sense of loss, and that is going to be sometimes all it takes to get you to stop procrastinating. And maybe, hopefully, you're not going to wait so long. It's a health problem or financial problem or a, relationships issue, anything like that. But do remember, all of us are more motivated by losing the fear of losing something that we already have than we are by gaining something that we might want sometime in the future. Manipulate yourself. Feel that fear, and maybe that's the very thing it takes for you to stop procrastinating.
Yes, very well put. I'm glad you took a second to pause on that. It's absolutely a fact. So, on to some of the sometimes big, sometimes micro procrastinations we see amongst the realtor crowd, real estate professionals. Number one, maybe you're not taking action or you're procrastinating because you are certain the market's going to crash soon, creating the opportunity you think isn't there currently. You tell yourself that nobody's buying due to higher interest rates, or nobody's selling because they're locked into their low interest rate mortgage loans, and thus you are not taking action. And then you just layer on top of that the commission lawsuit discussions where everybody in the headlines say house prices are going to come down, and you get that confirmation bias. Well, what's the cure? Stop using all of that, because none of that's going to happen. How do I know? Because meanwhile, while you were thinking about it, more than 4 million homes sold, even with rates that were higher, even with locked-in, mortgages.
We talked about that this morning. The inventory of homes for sale is up by almost 30% year over year, which leads you perfectly to point number 2.
Thank you. Procrastination number 2. You are waiting for the inventory fairy to sprinkle the right new listings into your MLS so you can finally get some of your buyers in contract. This also means you're waiting on your buyers to see something in the drip that you set them up that they want to buy. Now, the inventory fairy has been sprinkling listings. What is it, up over 100,000 listings year over year, I believe?
I see what your next point is, and it's, yes, up over 100,000. It's like 140,000 homes for sale right now versus this time last year, not including new construction, which is not in the MLS.
And new construction accounts for 30% of last month's closings. I think it was 31%. So if you're not finding it in your MLS, what do you know about new construction? We have done podcasts about that. All right, number 3. Procrastination. You're waiting for your next deal to materialize from your center of influence. You've always lucked out in the past. Surely something will happen soon. What happened to all of the FOMO, the fear of missing out, that used to be out there? Well, here's a question for you. Remember, we promised action steps here. Do you know right now, if I were to call you up and interview you, do you know which people in your database actually have to move in the next 90 days or less? Do they all know what their home is now worth in today's market? Can they do their own net sheet? Do they have any idea? It's your job to find out.
Here's where I remember we had this experience droves of times. After the house, like you and I were coaching starting basically full-time in 2000, 2001, right? Mm-hmm. And so we were working with a lot of, different kinds of agents, different kinds of markets. But I remember when the market really started to heat up prior to the real estate crash. It started really probably in 2002, 2003, and it just kept on rolling.
Yep.
Right? And so there were agents that were, similar to this past seller's market that washed out about 3 years ago, that had only sold in a market where effectively real estate was it was fear of missing out. Buyers are going to want to buy. They're not that particular. They're going to overpay. Sellers are not going to be that particular who they're going to list with because they know it's going to sell themselves. All of that led to a big swath of agents, frankly, that never had to develop any competitive skills.
That's right.
And those are the same agents right now that are suffering. But what's fascinating to me is I remember, you and I back in 07, 08, we knew that the real estate market was going to crash really in 06 because we saw inventory fluctuations in the key markets you and I watched.
Yes.
San Diego, Miami,
Vegas.
Las Vegas, right? And we watched these markets where they build up the inventory, it would sell off, build up, sell off, build up, sell off. And then last time, when we knew we were right, it built up and it didn't sell off in any of these markets across the country where we had coaching clients.
Yep.
So we knew basically the proverbial, what was going to hit the fan, and we were 100% right. And then the first subprime mortgage lender, was it New Century or something, closed up in Southern California, and then the dominoes fell faster you can possibly imagine. Here's what actually happened: there were a lot of agents that had built up on paper net worth prior to the housing crash because they were buying houses, using no income, no job, anyone.
Well, it was actually called a ninja loan. People think we
yeah.
make this up, but no, it was nicknamed the ninja loan because
Right.
there's no income, job, assets, or I think that's or assets. Yeah.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, that was a real thing.
Yeah,
There was also no doc loans, no documentation. All that was real, guys.
So there were a lot of agents that basically had owned a lot of homes that were appreciating very quickly, who were essentially on paper millionaires, who were then following sort of the, I think, crappy advice of constantly refinancing your assets, pulling all the equity out, buying another one, buying another one, buying another one. And so what eventually happened was, this was true in the country, but everybody and their brother was buying real estate as an investment. And you'd run into people. I had a new coaching client. He was in Central California, and he was in his 20s, super nice guy. He was first generation American from Mexico. He had a real estate license. Very, very sweet guy. Anyway, he had like 20 homes.
Yeah, I remember these times. Yeah.
And he basically was, all of those homes had resulted in him having a net worth on paper of millions and millions of dollars.
Yep.
It was a great on paper, success story.
Good while it lasted.
Well, guess what happened? Prices fell. He got wiped out. All those houses go into foreclosure, but that's what happened all over the country. Now, why am I telling you this? Because there are people to this day who are still licking their wounds psychologically from that having happened. There are people that Julie and I will run into who are listening to this podcast, who knew Julie and I back when we were coaching agents what to do with short sales and distressed real estate back in 07, 08, 09, right? Who've been connected with us for a long period of time, who I'm speaking to right now. You guys are still psychologically trapped in the cage of what happened, and you're using that as an excuse not to actually, essentially allow yourself to really, I think, break free of that really horrible experience for you. And I understand you maybe were a millionaire and now you're barely getting by and you're saying, well, I'm not going to try it again. I'll just lose it all again. You got to start being real, I think, almost introspective about why it is that you're procrastinating. Julie's first 3 points were all about waiting for the market to return, waiting for the interest rates to fall, waiting for the mortgages to become simpler, waiting. Well, there is no waiting in real estate, no waiting in life. Time flies by too fast. So if you're somebody that's still licking their wounds from the real estate crash that happened way back when, I'm here to tell you that you have maybe not very much more time to get on the train and embrace what this new market has to offer. Your experience, albeit a bad experience, will actually make you in a better position to help people in this market. So stop waiting. Some of you are thinking like, how the hell can someone still be licking the wounds from something that happened 15 years ago? Mark my word. There are people right now who are agents who are experiencing something similar, slightly different recipe, but same outcome of what happened back in 07, because over the last 3 years, we're talking with teams, we're talking with brokers, we're talking with individual agents that were selling, millions and millions of dollars of real estate, making millions and millions of dollars per year, and now they're thinking about part-time jobs. Psychologically, that reversal is going to be essentially the death blow for a lot of people's future potential unless they realize this one truism. And it is true. If you've been successful once at anything in life, it could be a spelling bee when you were 3. Do kids have spelling bees at 3? I don't think so. It could be a swimming thing. It could be a whatever. You're a great pianist. If you've been successful at something that took long periods of time of doing what you don't want to do and you don't want to do at the highest level, you can be successful again. And if the last time you were really, truly successful was one of these, 3 or 4 years ago, or maybe back in 06, 07, you can be successful again, but you've got to stop procrastinating and waiting.
You got to let it go. Use the song, right?
What's
let
the
it
song?
go from Frozen. Let
boy.
it go. Anyway, okay. So number 4, procrastination. And to your point, these are points about waiting. That's what procrastinating is. Maybe you're waiting for your videos to get somebody to list with you. Just keep on cranking out those TikToks. You must not have enough of them yet. And you talked about TikTok a little bit yesterday.
Well, TikTok's going to get wiped out itself, you know?
So I think we can just skip that point. Stop doing that. Stop waiting for those to magically work.
And all forms of social media, guys, there's nothing that any of us have any control over, really, at the end of the day. TikTok, there's a lot of agents who are going to have the rug pulled out from underneath them, I would guess, within the next 90 days. And TikTok is going to be essentially, out of business in the United States. And Telegram's probably going to be next. So if you're trying to build some sort of, group on Telegram, I would suggest you stop wasting your time. So really, you want to build an anti-fragile business and really approach to life. That's the reason that if you really want to have a long-term sustainable business, you're going to have to learn how to have real conversations with folks, because there is no, social media platform that's going to somehow wipe out your ability to talk with people about real estate, or to go to social events like we talked about yesterday, or do all the other real work of real estate. All these shortcuts that this whole last generation of agents have been attracted to with regards to social media, thinking that you have to become a social media influencer and that's where all your business comes from. Haven't you guys figured out yet that that is mostly a lie?
Exactly. Well said. All right, number 5. This one drives me crazy as a coach. You're waiting for a call back from your fill in the blank leads, waiting for a call back from the other agent, the home inspector, the appraiser, the mortgage guy. Waiting. Be the one who calls and then call again until you get results. And I think this could be inserted as texting, waiting for a text back. Pick up the phone, talk into it. Be the one who is going after it.
But that's a really good point, Julie, because in this time of year, really any time of year, you're going to be dealing with, and you might be this person, so, don't take it personally, a lot of inexperienced real estate people.
For sure.
And a lot of mortgage agents or, LOs are getting washed out right now. So you might be dealing with people across the board to get this deal closed that are totally and completely inexperienced.
Yep.
Or let's just say you're the experienced one, but you're waiting for these inexperienced agents to somehow, or, I would say ancillary service providers that all of a sudden start doing their jobs. That deal's not going to close. I would say in a market like this, if you are even moderately experienced, you're going to have to do probably 50 to 60 to 75% of the work for the other agent and maybe even the other folks involved in the transaction. I want to share with you something. Mm-hmm. So John Walkinshaw up in Canada, who I interviewed for the newsletter Harris Real Estate Daily, in his state, or rather his country, there is essentially the whole buyer agent thing that we're dealing with now has been in place for long periods of time.
Yep.
So this is what I don't know if you knew, okay? In his market, when you sign a listing contract, you can be truly an unrepresented buyer in Canada. So maybe it's just his province or maybe it's the whole country. So you can choose to not have any representation as a buyer at all, and you are then going to present yourself to the listing agents, and you're going to say, I'm an unrepresented buyer. I'm going to stay as an unrepresented buyer.
Yep.
But what that does then do is the listing agent has to do the job that the buyer's agent would have otherwise done for that buyer. And so what you're dealing with is a buyer who is not realizing that they're burdening that listing agent that much more. So what a lot of agents in Canada are doing is they're actually making it so that the seller is agreeing at the time of the listing that if the offer comes in from an unrepresented buyer, the commission is actually going to increase, not decrease. It's going to go from whatever the average was, and they might actually add a couple extra percents because now they're having to do what would have been both agents' job. I cannot see why that won't happen in the United States as well.
And that's not technically a dual agency.
No.
You're not representing, even though you're raising the commission and you're essentially, to your point, which ties into this point, you're waiting for somebody to call you back.
Right.
You are doing double the work. And in Canada, take a note from them because they've been dealing with this longer than we have. They are then increasing the commission because they have to do twice the work. So very interesting. But I think the bigger point here is if it's meant to be, it's up to me. That has to be your mantra. Remember our mantra at the top of this podcast, right? You have to own it. You have to take responsibility and stop waiting and putting it on everybody's back. You will experience times, and I think John probably spoke to this, where you're the reason the deal is closing because you were proactive. Or maybe the opposite if you weren't. All right, here's another one. We've seen coaching number 6. You're waiting for your scripts to be perfect. Just 10 more role play sessions and you'll be ready to pick up that phone. Practice with real people who have real reasons to transact, and magically your scripts will improve.
But it's not just scripts. It's your scripts. It's your pre-listing package, your listing presentation. It's your haircut.
It's tweaking things.
You're going to lose 20 more pounds and you're finally going to, whatever it is. Stop waiting. And again, remember, what's motivational to most people is losing something you already have. So you might need to manifest the fear of loss to get yourself to push past, procrastination. And I'll tell you one of the biggest plagues that I think faces certainly Americans right now.
What's that?
The desire to be comfortable. And that's what really, and frankly, it's easy to be comfortable because most everyone you can get, it's not hard to get food. It's not hard to get shelter. Pretty much everyone's going to be able to get a job, earn a living. I'm not saying it's the same everywhere, adjust accordingly. But the reality of it is most people spend all their existence going from one situation, their comfortable warm bed, to their comfortable warm environment, to their comfortable warm this, the other thing. They're never, right now, the physiology, these guys that are teaching longevity and all that. So, you're supposed to put yourself in a deep freeze for 2 minutes,
right,
and a sauna. You guys are familiar with a lot of this. And that's the reason you're doing that is because you're supposed to want to stress your body so your body does not become complacent. Your body wants to become complacent. Your body wants to go from comfortable environment to comfortable environment. So you're going to have to actually add stress. Like Julie and I, we go and we'll walk 6 miles, and we'll do that usually 2, sometimes 3 times a week. And we wait until the heat of the day because we want to go out there. And we live in Puerto Rico, so let me tell you, in June, July, it's seriously hot. We're going out there intentionally because we want to stress our bodies. We want to make it so that our bodies don't become naturally complacent. And you have to, when you go to the gym, you have to mix up what you're doing, kettlebells or whatever else, so your body just doesn't get used to essentially the rhythm of what you're doing. Well, in life, if you find yourself thinking about, I'm comfortable now, I'm going to go to another comfortable environment, that is going to do a lot. That's going to kill your ambition.
It's going to make you soft. Getting softer.
Exactly. Make you softer. Make it so you never do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. And then all the con men are going to message you and call you and tell you how you can hit this easy button or that easy button, and you can just buy this lead or do this marketing thing, and somehow magically you're going to be the local celebrity and all the leads are going to come raining in on you. You guys get it?
Exactly. So point number 7, you're waiting until you return from vacation, which doesn't start for 2 weeks. You wouldn't want a deal to happen while you're away, would you? Now, here's the irony in that. We all know that when you leave town, you're going to sell something anyway, and you're going to be working for part of that anyway.
Well, I have people say that to me with regards to closings when they're thinking about joining eXp Realty. And they're saying, well, I'm going to wait for this closing to happen before I join eXp Realty. And then there's another closing, and then there's another closing. What they're really trying to avoid is essentially going from their comfortable little fish pond where maybe they were the big fish into a pond where there's other big fish, and then they're going to have to learn how to be more competitive. They know that they have to make themselves uncomfortable. They're just procrastinating, making themselves uncomfortable.
Yes, well, that is curable, isn't it? So point number 8, you're waiting to find your big why. You haven't found your passion in the business, so you're not feeling motivated. Now, we've done entire podcasts about that. Make your work your passion. Make the results of you being of service to your prospects and clients your big why. Because here's what's interesting. The big why changes as you become more and more successful, and the more you help other people, the more you can help yourself and your family.
I think the big why is one of the biggest lies ever perpetuated on humanity, because what it does is, to Julie's point that you just said, your big why is going to change from day to day or throughout your entire life. And so here's the thing. If you, again, going to the passion statement, those almost should have been two things. Big why and passion are almost separate. But the reality of it is how many of you believe that you're not successful because real estate's not your passion? How many believe that you haven't really been successful at the level in which you would have hoped to by now because of the fact that, whatever the activity wasn't your passion? Here's the problem with passion. It's fleeting. It comes and it goes. It's like, all other emotions. And where you really should be focusing is not just on trying to chase do something that you're passionate about. Do something where you have a level of mastery, and the sense of accomplishment and being able to help other people creates an emotional response inside of you that's way more powerful and long. It'll last your entire life, far more beneficial than trying to chase passion. So you got to really remember that. So anyone who tells you to follow your passion, frankly, is not somebody you should be listening to, because even if you start out by having passion for, say real estate, I promise you, the first time somebody's grouchy to you and then 2 other people are grouchy to you, where'd your passion go? Out the door. And so now you're off to something else. You're off to some other passion pursuit. That goes back to the belief that life isn't supposed to be hard, that you don't have to do what you don't want to do and you don't want to do it at the highest level. The belief that somehow the universe is going to bring you everything that you try to manifest. All this woo-woo stuff.
Yes, so be careful of all of these. This is a lot to think about on this podcast. So number 9, you're waiting until mortgage rates come down. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but keep in mind, meanwhile, I think the stat just came out a couple of days ago for the last quarter. Over 30% of transactions are closing with all cash, and lenders are offering free refis to those who are closing now with higher rates. The saying is true: date the rate, marry the home. But realize that more than 30% of deals right now are all cash, and I talk to coaching clients and coaches every day. The ones that aren't cash have like 50% down payments because everybody's full of equity that's coming from a different house, right?
Well, think about it from a new construction perspective. The reason new construction is owning many of your markets is because they're buying the rate down. And so a buyer can buy a newer, oftentimes, frankly, let's be honest, nicer house with a more modern floor plan. And their payment, even if the house costs more, is less than what a resale home would cost because the builders bought the rate down. So that really is incredibly important that you understand what's going on in new construction. And we've done so many podcasts on this, and we have so much coaching in Premier Coaching about this. By the way, if you've not yet joined Premier Coaching, what the heck are you waiting for? Just go to premiercoaching.com or scroll down below. You love this podcast. We know you do, because this continues to be one of the top This is like yesterday. It was the 19th. So there's 5 million podcasts in the world. This is number 19 in the business section in the subcategory of careers. I'm giving you all the specific drill down just so you guys know. But the reality of it is thousands and thousands of people listen to this podcast every single day. And all of you should be joining Premier Coaching. It's the next natural step in your career, whether you're a new agent, whether you're a veteran agent. Premier Coaching is perfect for those of you who are brokers and teams. They're looking to essentially offload the coaching and the training for your agents. Send them to Premier Coaching, and you can try it out for free for 30 days. No obligation, but we know you're going to love it. Most people stay with us for years. Some stay with us for decades. But do join Premier Coaching. Go to premiercoaching.com or scroll down below to click the link.
Last but not least, point number 10, you are waiting for your listing or listings to sell. Ask yourself what 3 things you're doing differently now that the market is a bit calmer with fewer buyers. Are you still expecting multiple offers and 10% over list? Occasionally that's still happening, but it's not on every listing anymore. If you're not getting that, you must be more proactive so you don't get fired or have the listing expire. And we have also done podcasts about how to avoid that.
A few,
exactly.
Yeah, we have over 5,000 past podcasts.
No excuses.
5,000. Okay, so yeah, we've done a lot of topics on these drill downs. You guys can listen to all of our past replays over on our main website, timandjulieharris.com. Of course, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. Not all of our past podcasts are on YouTube, just FYI.
All right, so the solution to all this procrastinating: take massive action starting today. Do 5 times what you think you need to do to get the results you desire. 5 times the open houses, 5 times the contacts, 5 times the pop buys, 5 times the expired calls, 5 times the new construction visits. Stop waiting and make it happen. You've got this. Remember, I'm a doer. I do things now. I get things done. That's your anti-procrastination affirmation.
Here's a little advanced coaching. If you really want to shock yourself out of procrastination, here's the best way to do it. And I know this is going to appeal to like 4 of you, but that's okay. Those 4 are really, this is going to move the needle for you. If you're not putting yourself in a position to hear the word no at least 5 times a day, you've not worked that day. If you're not putting yourself in a position to hear the word no at least 5 times a day, you have not worked that day. And no cannot be coming from your wife, your husband, your partner, your child, your dog, or whatever. It has to come from a decision-making adult about buying or selling real estate. You guys get it? Embrace the suck. Do the work, real work of real estate. It becomes so much easier over time. Stop procrastinating doing the real work of real estate, because what you're truly procrastinating is the potential that you have, not just in real estate, but on planet Earth. And the Buddha quote, the trouble is that you think you have time. You don't have time. Have you guys noticed the older you get, the faster life seems to fly by? And that really, I think I remember feeling that way when I was in my mid-30s.
For sure.
And it's because, guess what? You have more time behind you than you have in front of you, and your internal clock knows that. So make the most of every single day. Leave nothing to chance. Stay focused. Stop trying to learn on the job. I mean, it's just silly. Join Premier Coaching. Go to premiercoaching.com. Anything else you'd like to say to these procrastinators, Julie?
Get to work. No more excuses.
Have a great day.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.